Good morning, everybody. This morning we want to start with the Great Exposition of Actions, Mahakammavibhanga Sutta. This is very important discourse on kamma. Our people who believe in kamma say when everything is going on very smoothly, they are very happy, job is secure, salary is steady, health is good, relatives are doing well, friends are good. Then if somebody asks, how are you doing? Thanks God, I'm okay. If they lose the job and their health is bad and salary is not good, income tax is very high, rent is very high, and always fall sick and so forth. If somebody asks, how are you doing? This is my kamma. All bad things they attribute to kamma, all good things they attribute to God. That is how they understand kamma. Have you ever heard people talk about, this is my good kamma, I am doing okay, I am healthy, I am happy? Normally don't say that. They say, thanks God. Even Buddhists say that. Not only those who believe in theistic religions, but even Buddhists say that. Only when something goes wrong, they say, that is my kamma. So this shows how deep their misunderstanding of kamma is. And this exposition is a very good for everybody to learn, so that they can come some understanding of kamma, the way how the Buddha explained it to us. The way how the kamma operates is so complex, so complicated, that it's not easy to understand. It's very complicated. And here, this discourse is a very good example. And also, I like to remind you all, since we are spending this time very intensely to study sutras, please try to read the sutra. Whenever you have time, read the sutras. This is not some kind of reading like a magazine or newspaper or trashy novel or something. This is a very serious study. And you don't get this kind of chance all the time. So, you have come long way, spending a lot of time, energy, and taking vacation, leave from your jobs and so forth. So make the best use of your stay here during this short period. Whenever you have time, please spend that time to read. If you have read the sutta once, read again. If you have read it 2 times, read again. Until you even perhaps memorize that particular sutta. There are 2 sutras for you to study each day. And please read them. So when you go home, you will have some stuff in your head to think about. Postpone all other nitty-gritty things, which are not so important for this course. Moreover, when you study the sutra very well, you can ask good questions from the sutras. Instead of rambling, going here and there, bringing all the other peripheral things, you can stay with the course, ask questions from the course. That would be wonderful. Now let us begin with the discourse. As you have read the beginning of the discourse, Buddha spent some time explaining this particular topic in order to clarify some misunderstanding that people had even those days. Now at that time, Buddha was at Rajagaha in the bamboo grove. Now on that occasion the Venerable Samidhi was living in the forest, in a forest hut. Then the wandering Potali Putta, while wandering and walking for exercise, went to the Venerable Samidhi and exchanged greetings with him. When this courteous and amicable talk was finished, he sat down at one side as usual and said to Venerable Samidhi, "Friend Samidhi, I heard and learned this from the recluse Gautama's own lips." Not mere hearsay, I learned it from his own lips. What did he learn? Bodily action is vain. Verbal action is vain. Only mental action is real. And there is that attainment on entering which one does not feel anything at all. So Venerable Samidhi said, "Do not say so, friend Potali-putta, do not say so. Do not misrepresent the Blessed One." What is this misrepresentation? Let me read the passage and then we discuss that. It is not good to misrepresent the Blessed One. The Blessed One would not speak thus. Bodily action is vain, verbal action is vain, only mental action is real. But friend, there is that attainment on entering which one does not feel anything at all. What is this attainment? This attainment is called Sanya Vedita Nirodha. When you attain that state, you attain first jhana, second jhana, third jhana, fourth jhana, and immaterial jhanas, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then attain Sanya Vedita Nirodha, cessation of perceptions and feelings. Even an unenlightened person can attain that state. There is another attainment called Nirodha Samapatti. The Nirodha Samapatti is attained by at least Anagami and up. Those who have attained the third level of enlightenment, Anagami level, and Arahants can attain Nirodha Samapatti. Any other individual who has attained either Sotapanna, Sakadagami, or without Sotapanna, Sakadagami, practice 4 material jhanas and 4 immaterial jhanas, then they can attain Sanya Vedita Nirodha. cessation of perceptions and feelings. So, Pautaliputta's question is, his bold statement was that he had heard from the lips of the Buddha himself that physical actions is useless, vain. Verbal actions are useless, vain, no meaning. Only mental actions are meaningful. So he wanted to challenge. Then how come somebody can attain the cessation of perceptions and feeling without physical actions? That is his challenge. So Venerable Samiddhi said, Venerable Pautila, oh friend Pautila, don't misrepresent the Buddha. Buddha did not say that. So the Pautaliputra thought that this Venerable Samiddhi is very young, junior, he does not understand anything. So to clarify that, he asked him, how long is it since you went forth, friend Samiddhi? How long have you been a monk? Not long, friend, 3 years. Very short period. So, there now, what shall we say to the elder bhikkhus when a young bhikkhu thinks the teacher is to be defended thus? Friend Samiddhi, having done an intentional action by way of body, speech and mind, what does one feel? Having done in intentional action by way of body, speech or mind, one feels suffering, friend Pautaliputra. So Pautaliputra was not convinced. He simply, without neither approving nor disapproving of the Venerable Samiddhi's words, Wanderer Pautaliputra rose from his seat and departed. And then, soon after the wanderer Pautaliputra had left, the Venerable Samiddhi went to the Venerable Ananda and exchanged greeting with him. When this courteous and amiable talk was finished, he sat down at one side and reported to the Venerable Ananda his entire conversation with the Venerable Pautaliputra. After he had spoken, the Venerable Ananda told him, friend Samiddhi, this conversation should be told to the Blessed One. Come, let us approach the Blessed One and tell him this. So they both went to the Buddha and reported this. When he had finished, the Blessed One told the Venerable Ananda, I do not even recall ever having seen the wanderer Pautaliputra. So how could there have been this conversation? So Pautaliputra did not tell the truth, although he claimed that he heard all these things directly from the lips of the Buddha. He had not even seen the Buddha. Buddha said, how could I have conversation with him when even I have not seen him? So the Buddha though the wanderer Pautaliputra question should have been analyzed before being answered, this misguided man Samiddhi answered in one-sidedly. So this is one of the ways of Buddha's answering questions. When somebody challenged the Buddha, ask a question, Buddha sometimes answered the question directly, sometimes he started telling them a story, sometimes asking counter questions. In this case, Buddha wanted Samiddhi to ask Pautaliputra counter questions to analyze what he meant, because the statement is so confusing. When somebody asks a confusing question, instead of giving confusing answer, the first thing we should do is to ask the person to clarify the question, or ask counter questions to clarify that person's question, so that both sides are very clear and the discussion will be meaningful. So, when this was said, Venerable Udayi said to the Blessed One, Venerable Sir, perhaps the Venerable Samiddhi spoke thus, referring to the principle, whatever is felt is included in suffering. So Venerable Udayi intervened and tried to defend Venerable Samiddhi, as if Buddha did not understand this. That is an insult to the Buddha. Then the Blessed One addressed the Venerable Ananda, see Ananda, how this misguided man Udayi interferes. I knew, Ananda, that this misguided man Udayi would unduly interfere right now. From the start, the wanderer Pautaliputra had asked about 3 kinds of feelings. So even Venerable Udayi did not understand the question. So Buddha has to clarify and get him out of his way again, saying that Pautaliputra was referring to 3 kinds of feelings. Misguided man Samiddhi would have answered the wanderer Pautaliputra's rightly if, when asked thus, he would have explained, friend Pautaliputra, having done an intentional action by way of body, speech or mind, whose result is to be felt as pleasant, one feels pleasure. That means when the physical, verbal and mental action happen to be pleasant physical action, pleasant verbal action, pleasant mental action, the result should be pleasant. Having done an intentional action by way of body, speech or mind, whose result is to be felt painful, one feels pain. For the results to be painful, the intentional thoughts, words, deeds must be unpleasant. That means when we do physical unpleasant things, the result is unpleasant feeling. When we do verbal unpleasant things, result is unpleasant feeling. If we do unpleasant mental things, then the results will be unpleasant. Having done an intentional action by way of body, speech or mind, whose result is to be felt as neither pain nor pleasure, one feels neither pain nor pleasure. But who are these foolish, thoughtless wanderers of other sects that they could understand the Tathagata's great exposition of action. You should listen, Ananda, to the Tathagata as he expounds the great exposition of action. This is the time, Blessed One, this is the time, Sublime One, for the Blessed One to expound the great exposition of action. Having heard it from the Blessed One, the bhikkhus will remember it. This is Venerable Ananda's response. Then listen, Ananda, and attend closely to what I shall say. Yes, Venerables, and so forth. So, there are 4 kinds of persons to be found existing in the world. Now we must pay total attention to these 4 kinds of persons. What are 4? Here, someone kills living beings, takes what is not given, adinnadana. First is panatipata. Second is adinnadana. Misconducts himself in sensual pleasures. This is a good translation for kamesu micchachara. Not sexual misconduct, but misconduct in sensual pleasures. Because the word kamesu is given in plural. Not kame or kamamha, but kamesu, plural. To mean abusing or behaving incorrectly or having misconduct in eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body and mind. All the 6 must be included in kamesu micchachara. But only sexual misconduct is only bodily misconduct. There can be verbal misconduct, mental misconduct, there can be misconduct with our eyes, abusing our eyes, abusing our ears and so forth. And therefore I think this translation is good. It speaks falsehood, that is musavada. It speaks maliciously, that is to create schism, disharmony between friendly people. We defined this word according to the commentary. Pali word is pisuna vacha. Pisuna means pe sunya. Pe means priya, friendly. Sunya means destroying. The words that we utter to destroy friendship is called pe sunya. Sunya means empty. You make the friendship null and void by uttering malicious words. Speaking harshly, that cuts through your marrow, goes in right into your bone, cutting through your bone, going into marrow, that kind of very spiky, bitter words. Gossip, the words that makes no Dhamma, has no Dhamma message in it. There is a message which is not Dhamma message. That kind of talks are called gossips. He is covetous. Covetous means unrighteous greed. Unrighteous greed means greedy for things that belong to somebody else. Somebody has something, we become very greedy of getting that particular thing for us. seeing an expensive car, one might say, I wish I get this car. Something very expensive article, I wish I get it. Sometimes if they don't get it, they can go and steal. It begins with unrighteous greed, covetousness. Has a mind of ill will. I say, when our will is ill, we have ill will. We are sick in our mind. And holds wrong views. Wrong views, one of the wrong views is believing in permanent eternal self. Now, on the dissolution of the body after death, he reappears in a state of deprivation, in an unhappy destination, in perdition, even in hell. You see, Buddha was so broad-minded, so compassionate. He did not talk about hell straight away. He would talk about heaven straight away. He talks about hell in a roundabout way, going slowly, bushing around the bush and beating around the bush, and finally he goes to hell. Talk about hell. See the words he used? Unhappy state. Then, what do you call unhappy destination? In perdition. And then even in hell. That is not the number one. I like very much the Buddha's wording, because he is enlightened. This is the first position. Second is, but here some person kills living beings and so forth, and what happens after death? After death he appears in heaven, in a happy destination, even in the heavenly world. What was he doing? He was doing the same thing that the other person did, but ended up in heaven. Then the third person. Here some person abstain from killing living beings, from taking what is not given, from misconducting sensual pleasures, from false speech, from malicious speech, from harsh speech, from gossip. He is not covetous, his mind is without ill will, and he holds right view, just the opposite to the first person. On the dissolution of the body, after death, he reappears in happy destination, even in the heavenly world, naturally. Then the third person, but here someone abstain from killing living beings, just like the second person, abstain from, like the third person, he abstains. Yeah, this is the fourth person. Fourth person is very much like the third person, abstain from killing and so forth, but after death, he appears in a state of deprivation, in an unhappy destination, in perdition, even in hell. How about that? So Buddha went on explaining. Here Ananda, by means of ardor, endeavor, devotion, diligence, and right attention, some recluse or Brahmin attains such concentration of mind that when his mind is concentrated, with the divine eye, which is purified and surpasses the human, he sees that person here who kills having living beings and so forth, with wrong views and so forth. He sees that on the dissolution of the body, after death, he has appeared in a state of deprivation, in an unhappy destination, in perdition, even in hell. He says thus, this is the thing. Now, this individual who sees the person dying and taking rebirth in wrong, in a painful state, in state of deprivation and so forth, what has he done? This particular individual has practiced meditation, very ardent, very diligent. He practiced meditation and attained very high level of jhana. And these are the words we must remember. Atappa manvaya. Atappa we read in Satipatthana Sutta. Atapino. Atapi sampajano. Atapi sampajano satima vinayi loke abhijja domanasang and so forth. Atapi means striving to overcome defilements. Padhanang anvaya. Padhana is samma padhana. 4 types of effort, which called samma padhana. Effort to prevent, overcome, develop and maintain. Anuyoga. Anuyoga is translated as diligence. Devotion. Devotion. Appamada anvaya. Appamadang anvaya, with diligence. Manasikarang anvaya, with mindful attention, right attention. These are the requirements for attaining jhana. So this individual practice all these things and attain jhana and gain supernatural power to see beings dying and taking rebirth. Now, this is the knowledge that even Siddhartha Gautam Bodhisattva, when he attained Buddhahood, enlightenment, in the first watch of the night, this is the knowledge, this is the second watch of the night. Second watch of the night, he saw beings dying and taking rebirth according to their kamma. Now therefore, and these individuals also have practiced jhanas and attained that level and gained that knowledge. And therefore this knowledge is not supramundane knowledge. This is a mundane knowledge. Because he is referring to ascetics who have been practicing these things. They are not following the Noble Eightfold Path. They were not practicing supramundane practices. They have been practicing mundane practices and gained this knowledge. Now, I mention this because they are, although they can see beings dying and taking rebirth according to their kamma, their knowledge is limited. See what happens with this limited knowledge. They say, indeed, there are evil actions. This is what they say. This person says, indeed, there are evil actions. There is result of misconduct. For I saw a person here who killed living beings and so forth. He listed all the things that he had, wrong things he did, and says, that individual, after death, he has reappeared in a state of deprivation and so forth. So, I saw this and this is true. Then he concludes, those who know this thus know rightly. Those who think otherwise are mistaken. Okay? Thus he obstinately adheres to what he himself has known, seen and discovered, insisting only this is true, anything else is wrong. Remember this particular statement. This is what he says. Now he vouched, he swears, this is true, anything else is wrong. What he says, I have seen beings killing living beings and so forth, committing all 10 akusala kamma. What we read earlier in the list is 10 akusala kamma. Dasa akusala kamma they committed. And after death they are born in deprivation and so forth. And this is true. I have seen it with my supernatural knowledge, and this is true. Anything else anybody else says is wrong. Remember that. Then comes another person. That person also says this, and he says, he also gained this kind of supernatural knowledge, and he says, he sees that on the dissolution of the body after death, he has reappeared in a happy destination, even in the heavenly world. He says thus, indeed, there are no evil action. What did he see? He saw somebody committing all these 10 unwholesome kammas, and he saw a person who has committed all the unwholesome kammas is born in heavenly world. So you don't have to worry about committing unwholesome kammas. Here is an evidence. Indeed, therefore he concludes there is no anything called evil. There are no evil actions. There is no results of misconduct. For I saw a person here who killed living beings and so forth after dissolution, after death. I also want to emphasize this word, after death. He has appeared in happy destination. So sometimes people say, oh, birth and death is all in this life. Kamma and these results are only in this life. But here we say after death. That means after we die, something else happened. So, so he very persistently insists what he knows, what he shows is true. Everything else, anybody else says is wrong. Third person says, third person also has attained the same level of jhana, gained supernatural powers, being able to read, see beings dying and taking rebirth according to their kamma. And he says, that a person here who abstained from killing living beings and so forth, he abstained from committing all these 10 unwholesome kammas. Then he says, I see that that on the dissolution of the body, when this person dies after death, he has reappeared in a happy destination. And I saw this, and this is true. Whatever else anybody else says is wrong. So he says, I have seen somebody abstaining from all these unwholesome 10 kammas. And that person after death was reborn in heaven. I saw this. And this knowledge, this understanding is correct. Anything else anybody else says is wrong. Then the fourth person comes along, who also has attained the same level, and seeing somebody abstaining from killing, stealing and so forth, and he says, he sees that on the dissolution of the body after death, he reappears in a state of deprivation, in an unhappy destination, in perdition, even in hell. You see, how about that? You just abstain from everything, every unwholesome things, and you are born in deprivation. He says thus, indeed, therefore he concludes, indeed, there are no good action, there is no result of good conduct, for I saw a person who abstained from killing living beings and so forth, and after death he was reborn in unhappy state. So this is true knowledge. Then Buddha's chance, Buddha's turn. Buddha says, there in Ananda, when a recluse or Brahmin says, indeed, this portion also is very important to remember. Try to understand it very clearly. Indeed, there are evil actions, there is result of misconduct, I grant him this. Okay? There is something called evil, unwholesome actions, so I agree. When he says, I saw a person here who killed living beings and so forth, and after death, because of these evil actions, he has reappeared in the state of deprivation and so forth, Buddha said, I also grant him that. Grant him this. Then Buddha says, but when he says on the dissolution of the body after death, everyone who kills living beings after their death reappears in deprivation, I do not grant him this. Why is that? He gives the reason later on. Then he says, and when he says those who know, thus know rightly, those who think otherwise are mistaken, I also do not grant him this. So this individual who Buddha approved two of his statements. What are the statements he approved? This individual who has supernatural knowledge to see beings, see unwholesome actions as unwholesome actions, he recognized it, he said, this is unwholesome. Buddha said, yes, I agree that. And this individual who has gained supernatural knowledge says, because of these unwholesome actions, he was reborn in deprivation, in perdition and so forth, Buddha said, that also is true. I agree. But if he says, this view is the only right view, anything else regarding this is wrong, I disagree with that. And also he says, if the person says, this view is the right view, and those who hold any other view is wrong or mistaken, Buddha said, I do not agree with that. Buddha gives a reason later on. And when he obstinately adheres to what he himself has known, seen or discovered, insisting, only this is true. What I discovered, what I know, is the only truth. Anything else is wrong, I also do not grant him this. Now the second thing, second position is Brahmin or recluse who says, indeed there are no evil deeds, evil actions. There is no result of misconduct. I do not agree with that. Buddha did not agree with that. That is true. Second is, those who commit unwholesome evil actions will be reborn in happy state, and so forth. Buddha said, I agree. Even though they commit unwholesome things, they are reborn in happy state. Buddha said, I agree with that. On the dissolution of the body after death, everyone who kills living things, living beings and so forth, if somebody says, because this person saw somebody killing living beings and so forth, taking rebirth in what you call heavenly state, Buddha said, I agree, but if somebody says, whoever kills living beings and so forth will, everybody who kills living beings and so forth will take rebirth in heavenly state, Buddha said, I do not agree with that. You can say, some people committing unwholesome deeds may be reborn in heavenly state, I agree with that. If somebody says everybody, see the difference between some people and everybody. Buddha said, I do not agree with that. The third position is, this person says, this I saw with my own supernatural eyes, and therefore what I saw is true, everybody else says is untrue. Buddha said, I do not agree with that, because Buddha knows something better than that. Next position is, he says, only this is true, everything else is wrong. What he discovered is true, whatever else anybody discovered is untrue. If he says that, Buddha said, I do not agree with that. Then the third position is, somebody says, Brahmin says, there are good actions, there's a good results. Buddha said, I agree with that. He may say, I have seen being committing good actions and taking rebirth in heavenly state, and Buddha said, I agree with that. But if he says, everybody who commits good actions will take rebirth in heavenly state. I do not agree with that. And also if somebody says only all those who commit wholesome good actions will be reborn in heavenly state, and this belief is the only true belief, everything else is wrong, I do not agree with that. If somebody holds on to one's own view and say other views are wrong, other interpretations are wrong, Buddha said, I do not agree with that either. Then the fourth position is, if somebody said there is no anything called good action and no good results, I do not agree with that. And if somebody says I have seen here who has abstained from killing and so forth after dissolution of his body, he will be born in deprivation and so forth. I grant him that. But if he says everybody who abstain from killing and so forth will be reborn in deprivation and hellish state, Buddha said, I do not agree with that. Also, I do not agree with the view that what they believe is the true, everything else is wrong. And I also do not agree with that if anybody says their views are wrong views, other views are, their views are right views, other views are wrong views. I do not agree. Now Buddha gives his reason why he did not agree with some, why he agreed with some. Now, number one, as to the person here who kills living beings and holds wrong views and so forth, on the dissolution of the body after death, reappears in state of deprivation, even in hell. These are the three reasons. One, either earlier he did an evil action to be felt as painful, or later he did an evil action to be felt as painful, or at the moment of death he acquired and undertook wrong view. Because of these three, his reappearance in deprivation is justifiable. Because there are three positions. Either he has done similar unwholesome thing in his previous life, or he has done some unwholesome thing in this life, or he has done some unwholesome things at the moment of death. Now there are three occasions for this person to take rebirth in deprivation. One, not only the kamma he committed now, but he has committed similar kamma in the past, and now, and at the moment of death. This bears fruit also in three different occasions. One is here and now. This is called Ditta Dhamma Vedaniya Kamma. Ditta Dhamma Vedaniya in Pali. Ditta Dhamma means in this very life. Second, in the next rebirth, immediately after this. That is Upapajja. Upapajja Vedaniya means the results of actions will be born in immediately following life, next life. Or Aparaparivedaniya. Aparapariya means in any life in future. Now page 1064. Then Buddha goes on explaining, we are on paragraph 18. So Buddha said, therein Ananda, as to the person here who kills living beings and so forth, after his death, reappears in happy state, happy destination, even in the heavenly world. So, those recluses who have attained, one of the recluses who has attained the gained supernatural knowledge to see beings dying and taking rebirth, concludes that it doesn't matter, even if you kill, after your death, after committing all these 10 unwholesome kammas, you will be reborn in heaven. So they conclude, therefore, there is nothing called good and evil. Doesn't matter what you do. You go to heaven. So long as you have faith. He doesn't say that, but that may be the assumption. So Buddha says that is wrong. In the first place he said it is possible that I grant him that. But if he says that is the only view and everything else is wrong, Buddha said I don't grant him that because there are other possibilities. So Buddha says these are the possibilities. This person, either earlier he did good action to be felt as pleasant, although he has committed unwholesome deeds in this life, he has done some good action previously, that means previous to this life, he has done some good actions. Secondly, later on, he did good action, that means before his death, in this life, in addition to all these unwholesome actions, he has done some wholesome actions. Therefore, as a result of that, he can be born in heavenly state. Or at the time of death, that is death proximate kamma. That is that is called maranasanna kamma. That is when somebody is going to pass away, even after having done a lot of unwholesome things, at the moment of death, if the person does something wholesome, that last action bears fruit. And the fruit is born either here and now in this very life, or in the immediate next life, or in any subsequent lives, any life in the samsara. And the third position, somebody who has abstained from killing and so forth, after death, naturally we will be reborn in happy state, heavenly state. That is true, not only because of his present wholesome deeds, but he has done wholesome deeds in the past, in previous lives, or he has done more present deeds in this life, and he recalled his present wholesome deeds at the moment of death. So in these three situations he has been doing wholesome things, and therefore his result will be born in this life immediately next life or in any future lives. Fourth position is somebody who has abstained from killing and so forth, from all these unwholesome deeds. After death he may be reborn in deprivation and even in hell, in spite of the fact that he abstained from unwholesome things, because he has done wholesome deeds in the previous life, or in this life intermittently, periodically he has done wholesome things, or at the moment of death he has done wholesome things. Therefore, in spite of his general unwholesome deeds, he is born in abstaining from wholesome deeds and so forth, he will be reborn in painful state. And its results is born here and now, or in the next life, or life in any time in samsara. So now, to sum up, I must say, what these recluses have not seen, they have seen only one. They have seen that somebody is killing, stealing and so forth, and after death that person is either born in painful state or in heavenly state. Another ascetic saw another person abstaining from killing, stealing and so forth, is taking rebirth in painful state or in heavenly state. They saw only these four situations. And therefore they concluded, according to their knowledge, even those who have seen somebody committing unwholesome things and taking rebirth in painful state would conclude there is nothing called unwholesome. No matter what you do, you will be reborn in heaven. Those who saw somebody committing unwholesome things and taking rebirth in painful state, they will say that yes, unwholesome things bear fruits in unwholesome state, painful state. And those who have seen somebody committing wholesome things say, yes, there is something called wholesome. When you do it, you will be reborn in heaven. And if they saw somebody committing wholesome things and taking rebirth in painful state, they will conclude that there is nothing called wholesome. No matter what you do, you will be reborn in painful state. What they have not seen is that each of these persons has committed variety of kammas in their previous lives. The one who has committed wholesome deeds and born in hellish state has done many unwholesome things in his previous lives, and in this life, while committing wholesome deeds, he also has committed many unwholesome deeds. And at the moment of death, in spite of all his wholesome deeds that he had been committing, at the moment of death, this person committed something very unwholesome. At least holding on to wrong view. Suppose somebody has been doing all kind of good things, say even following precepts and meditating, practicing generosity and committing all the 10 wholesome kammas. At the moment of death, somebody goes to him and changes his mind, brainwashing him. All you have done is wrong. You got to believe what I believe. This is the true things. You can convert people like that. Change their mind at the moment of death. So they brainwash them to believe something wrong, saying that this is the right thing, what you have been believing and doing was wrong. Therefore, what I say, what I believe, what I tell you, that is the right thing. What he tells him is all completely wrong thing, making him believe in wrong things. And people do that at the moment of death. And according to that, they will be reborn in a miserable place. So what these recluses had not seen was that their previous karma they had not taken into account, nor had they taken into account what they have done intermittently between other kammas. They have not seen their intention. They have not seen these individuals' state of mind at the moment of death. These 4 things they have not seen. What are the 4 things? They have not seen their previous kammas that they have, 5 things. 5th is, they have not seen these beings will bear fruit of their actions not only in the immediate birth, but in subsequent lives, any time in samsara. Their knowledge is so limited, they cannot see how this works in any time, in any life in samsara. These are the 5 things they have not seen. Let me repeat the 5 for you to remember. Number 1, they have not seen these people's previous kammas they have committed in their previous lives. Number 2, they have not seen these individuals committing different kammas in this life, in different states. Suppose somebody is committing wholesome kammas all the time, but occasionally they commit very, very serious unwholesome kamma, periodically. But what supersedes are the wholesome kammas. But other unwholesome kammas are committed occasionally, periodically, not frequently. What these people have seen was what they were committing frequently. And they conclude this is the general pattern. They generalize the actions and say they have been doing good things. But they had not taken into account, because they have not seen, that these people have been doing something unwholesome also intermittently. This is number 2 that they have not seen. Number 3 is their intention. While doing wholesome things, somebody may have wrong intention. That is why when we do wholesome things, we have to have a kusala. We have to have 2 things, punya and kusala. Punya is the wholesome, meritorious, that brings pleasure, happiness. Punya and happiness are synonymous. Buddha said, sukha setam bhikkhave punyasa adhivacanam, punya setam bhikkhave sukhasa adhivacanam. Punya and sukha, punya and happiness are synonymous. Because when we do punya, wholesome things, we are happy. But something appears to be punya, wholesome, superficially, but underneath there may be apunya. So, what the kusala does, kusala intervenes and raise the quality of punya. The kusala is the quality controller, so to say. Kusala is the skill. Skill comes and cleans the mind, remove these stains to make the punya powerful, wholesome. Otherwise, you may commit the punya, wholesome things, you will be very happy. But the motive is, intention is something not very holy, very noble. So, the cleansing the punya with the wholesome, clear, pure, stainless intention is called kusala. Kusala. So I call kusala is the quality controller. Punya is the thing that brings you happiness. So happiness can be increased if you have kusala. Happiness can be decreased if you don't have kusala. So the kusala and punya, although we used almost alternately or synonymously, but these two have two different meanings. Related. One makes the mind clean, other makes the mind happy. So, these individuals who have attained these supernatural powers do not see the intention, the state of mind of these people. They see only superficial action. They see somebody is killing, somebody is stealing, and so forth. But at the time, the person, the intention underneath, something may appear to be stealing, but it may not be real stealing. And something may appear to be very wholesome, but it may not be really wholesome. So, by superficial appearance, we cannot judge the strength of kamma, quality of kamma, whether it is wholesome or unwholesome. This is the third thing that they did not see. Fourth is at the moment of death, state of mind at the moment of death. They don't see. At the moment of death, like for example, Matta Kundali, you know the Matta Kundali's story. Matta Kundali's father was a stingy man. When Matta Kundali was sick, he put him out of his house, because if the boy died, he was a teenager suffering from jaundice. The father did not want to spend money. He was a multimillionaire, but he was so stingy he did not want to spend money even for his son's sickness. When he was going to die, he thought if he died inside the house, friends and relatives will come to see his dead body, and seeing my wealth, they will accuse me. You are so stingy, you let your son die, what happened? What are you going to do with all this wealth? They will accuse me. And therefore, fear of accusation, he took the child out, put him outside, so that people will not come to see the wealth. That day, Buddha was so compassionate. He said, this little boy, nobody is going to help him. Let me go and help. He came just to show himself to this boy, to make his mind clean and pure. Buddha came, this boy was turning towards the wall, lying on the veranda. Buddha stood, and his radiation, his radiant, vibrant, his aura reflected on the wall. This boy turned around to see what this bright color was, and he saw the Buddha. And he thought, gee, all my life I was confined to this house. I didn't have a chance to see this majestic, noble, holy one. I am so glad that he came to see me. With this thought he died and was born in heaven. So the person who has attained this level of jhanas and gained supernatural knowledge would wonder how this boy was born in heaven, because he has not done anything superficially for somebody to see. things like that happen, only the Buddha can see the moment of the state of mind of the person when he's going to pass away. And these ascetics did not see that. Therefore, they could not understand it. That is the fourth reason. The fifth is, they saw beings dying and taking rebirth. Immediately after death, they saw somebody dying and taking rebirth. But they do not see how many lives they take, lives they will be reborn, and how these actions are going to produce their results in many lives later in future, in subsequent lives. They saw only one life after death. They did not see many countless lives in future. Any time, that is called aparapariya vedaniya kamma. They did not see aparapariya vedaniya kamma, the kamma that bears fruits in any subsequent life in future. They did not see. These are the 5 reasons why Buddha did not agree with all the statements they made, except he said, if they say all this, somebody committing 10 unwholesome kammas will be reborn in painful state, Buddha said, yes. But if somebody says everybody who commits unwholesome kamma will be reborn in painful state, Buddha said, I do not agree with that. Because of these 5 reasons. On the other hand, if somebody says, I have seen somebody committing wholesome kamma and taking rebirth in heaven, I agree with that. But if somebody says, all those who commit wholesome kamma will be reborn in heaven, I don't agree with that. Because of these 5 reasons. So these 5 reasons we must remember, along with this the discourse where Buddha has divided beings into these 4 categories. So we can see 4 times 4 here. In fact, 60 Buddha explained this discourse in 16 ways. When you read it like reading a novel or newspaper, you don't get all this. So you got to read in between lines. Read very slowly. And then you will understand all these things that I have mentioned. And they are all in this. Our plan for morning is for me to speak 1/2 of the time, and other half you got to speak. But you all keep silent. Yes.
You mentioned in that story about the boy who was sick and died and was happy. Now, did he attain any of the states or the levels of realization?
Level of ordination?
Levels of realization.
Realization, no.
Well, in that case, wouldn't it be not compassionate? Because now he's going to go to heaven, end his lifespan, eventually go back down to one of the lower realms, probably hell or animal world, and have to come back up again to the kingdom.
Yes, I think you are very compassionate to ask this question. Very compassionate question. Yes. If Buddha saw that this boy had enough mental strength, Buddha would have not missed that point with that state. He would definitely spend little more time. This boy was on the verge of death. Mind and body was so weak, could not, because he had not even practiced any meditation. Therefore, he has not prepared himself, and all he could do at that moment was sending him to better place instead of living with this stingy father. So, it is a very compassionate question, yes.
What is the significance of the moment of death? Why does Buddha separate that? Why is it not included in just this life? Because he talks about actions during this life, but then there's something that can happen at the moment of death. Why is that separate?
I see. I think that also is a good question. You know, if somebody is not mindful all the time, the state of mind of that person at the moment of death is unpredictable. And in the unpredictable mind, anything can happen. That is why it is not included in this. If somebody is mindful all the time, and if the person has what we call 5 noble one's qualities, 4 noble one's qualities. What are the 4 noble one's qualities? Unshakable faith in the Buddha, unshakable faith in the Dhamma, unshakable faith in the Sangha, and impeccable morality. These are the 4, what we call, these are Arya qualities. He is not attained enlightenment, but he is preparing to attain the first stream entry. When he attains the stream entry, then he has his faith in the Buddha is unshakable, faith in the Dhamma is unshakable, faith in the Sangha is unshakable, his morality is impeccable. So he completes these 4 at the attainment of the stream entry. Then his destination is 100% guaranteed. He dies mindfully, he will not be reborn in perdition, painful state, what you call painful destination or hellish state, he will not be born. So until such time, ordinary person who is not even mindful, the last moment, anything can happen. Yes.
One question on that we learned that when you're in enlightenment, you're achieving Nirvana, certain actions will cause rebirth in a better or worse condition. But when we're using the concept of heaven and hell, if you could really elaborate on it.
Concept of heaven and hell. Could you repeat the question? I could not hear properly.
The certain actions will cause rebirth in a better condition, certain actions will cause rebirth in a worse condition. But in the Sutta, what is talking about more of the hell or heaven? This is different from the birth, and this is different from Nirvana. What is this?
And different from birth and different from heaven, and going to attain Nibbana? Actually, he pointed out only the mundane things, but this discourse does not talk about attainment of enlightenment. Because the original question was not referring to enlightenment. So he stopped there, just answering the question that Philotika asked, but he confined the answer to that. That may be the reason why he did not mention anything about Nibbana. It's a also wholesome actions is the basis for following that path, definitely. I think that may be the reason. What is hell and heaven? In some places, like in Majjhima Nikaya, some places Buddha mentioned hell and heaven are here. In some places he mentioned hell and heaven are different existence, totally different from this life. Heaven also are of various categories. There are 16 Brahma realms, they are called kind of heaven. There are 6 sensual pleasure oriented heavens. These are separate existence, places. That is heaven. That means 6 plus 16, 22 kinds of heavens. But there are 136 kinds of hells. Why so many? Because we do so many things. So everybody should not go to one place. There must be a choice even in hell. So 136. We find in Buddhist scriptures, definitely in these Nikayas, 4 main Nikayas, Samyutta, Anguttara, Digha, Majjhima, these are the 4 main Nikayas. We find hell and heaven. Specifically there is a discourse called Deva Duta Sutta. I think it is in here. If you read Deva Duta Sutta, you will know all about hells. And if you read Mahakammavibhanga Sutta, you can read all about gods. So there are 2 ways of explaining it. In terms of this life, in terms of after death. Buddha explained them in both ways. Explaining hell and heaven in this life, he said, suppose somebody, talk about hell, suppose somebody is seeing things, hearing sounds, smelling, tasting, touching and thinking. If somebody is full of hatred, grudge, anger, ill will, that moment that person is in hell. On the other hand, by seeing, hearing, smelling, touching and tasting and thinking, if somebody is absolutely pleased, happy, blissful, that moment that individual is in heaven. That is one way of explaining hell and heaven in this very life. The other way of explaining is, he definitely said, Kaya Sveda Paramarana Apayan Duggati Vinipatan Nirayang Uppajjati. Kaya Sveda Paramarana Apayan Duggati Vinipatan Nirayang Uppajjati. After breaking up the body, after death, the person will be born in unhappy state, painful destination, perditions, even in hell. So, both ways it is explained, just like Mara. Mara is explained in one place, like in Sutta Nipata, as impurities in the mind, defilements. In other places, Mara is a Devaputta, divine being, living separately, occasionally appearing before us to harass us. So both explained in two ways. I think, yeah.
You said a few lectures ago that all living beings crave pleasure, and then also just now you mentioned that to be reborn in a lower level, to be reborn in an animal realm. Why do we say the same thing about animals craving, and why are they considered to be a lower level when they act on instinct and don't necessarily cause harm to each other intentionally like we do?
All right. I don't think animals do as mean things as we do. Don't compare animals to humans. That is an insult to animals. Because only human beings commit evil things. Animals are not that evil. But their life is very painful life, unfortunate life, because they have committed unwholesome kammas in the previous lives. In their life, when they are born to be predators, hunters, they commit more and more unwholesome kammas. They don't know. They are totally, utterly confused, ignorant, and they keep committing unwholesome kammas. They don't know. However, even animals, that is not the one and only life of animals. They might have lived as human beings in their many lives in the past. And lived as an animal. Human being lives like an animal. And prepared himself, conditioned himself to be born as an animal. Once he is born as an animal, still his human good things he has done as a human being still works in him. So one day, when his animal karma is over, he will be back again as a human being. So this cycle is repetitive. In Darwinian theory, evolution is unidirectional, linear evolution. In Buddhist, it is not linear. It is multidirectional. It can go zigzag back and forth. So animals can have a chance to be born as human beings, even divine beings after that. Human beings have a chance to be born as animals, even worse than that. So this is the nature of Kamma, you know. Nature of Kamma is so intriguing, inexplicable, and ordinary people don't understand it. I think we hold on to question now. Our time is up. We have to go and do our little puja, Buddha puja, and we continue this. You can write this question put in a box when you put the box out. Okay? I know this is a very interesting subject. You may have zillions of questions on this subject. All right.